Hello friends, 2 years ago I posted my first video on the YouTube Adenium Dorset Horn sprouting. That's when I purchased my 140 seeds of Adenium arabicum, Thai Soco, Chada Petch, and one of those 140 seeds sprouted this way with curly leaves. It's called Dorset Horn because it reminds people of the curliest horns of all the types of sheep, called Dorset Horn sheep. Well, 2 years passed, and you might wonder, how do the plants look that weren't curly? And how does that special one look that had a light color trunk? And how does that special one look that was smaller than the others? Well, let me show you. Today, 2 years after I showed the sprouts, the plants look like this: chubby, with tapered branches, each one very much of an individual, each one with different character. Last year I cross-pollinated them with each other and got, as expected, about 4% of a curly Dorset horns. Some of these plants had much higher percentage of curly offspring, some much lower. This year I will cross-pollinate again and watch, compare to my database entries from last year. Are the ones whose pollen gave better results repeating those results, or was it just a happenstance? Was it the mothers that were having bigger offsprings of curly ones? Just happenstance occurrence, or are they always having, let's say, 10% of Dorset horns? I even had one curly variegated. Can that be repeated by matching the same parents? I don't know. I shall see. And how do the white trunk and how does the dwarf curly and dwarf non-curly sprout look 2 years later? Well, let me show you. This is the curly one 2 years later, and this is the dwarf non-curly one 2 years later, and this is a little bigger but much smaller than the other ones 2 years later. This is the one which had a very light trunk. I assumed, I hoped, I was wondering if it'll have also much lighter color flowers, perhaps white. Well, that didn't happen, but you can see the difference the difference of size between the regular Chada Petch and one that had a white trunk and the one that was very small sprout, non-curly, and the one that had a very small trunk, very small body, and curly. 2 years after I showed the sprout. One tweak, one little tweak from regular Chada Petch, I grafted on regular adenium to see several things. Would the body be similar? Well, not quite so taper branches like on Chada Petch that grows on its own roots. And another thing, would it grow faster? Yes, it very quickly caught the little twig, very quickly caught the mother plant, the plant from which I got the scion, the cutting. And my third question was, dear plant, would you tell me if your pollen or your stigma can produce offspring with curly leaves? From few hundred seeds that I got, none was Dorset Horn, none was the curly type. And that's about all I can say after my 2 years of experimenting. This year, as I already said, I'm gonna cross the most successful last year crosses. I'm gonna repeat the plants of Chada Petch whose pollen gave me most curly. I would use the pollen. The plants with Chada Petch whose stigma gave me most curly, I would repeat. And so, in a year or so, I will see if the results are consistent, and I will post a further update. If you are interested in my trials and tribulations, then you can subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll get update, you get noticed every time I post a new video. Until that time, dear gardening friends, goodbye. This has been the In Between Two Aquariums report.